Well, hello, chit chatters.
Okay, take two.
Well, hello, chick chatters.
Welcome back.
We are going to go into Match Me Abroad episode 3, which was called Find Me a Find. To go with your little song.
You're fine.
Well, Harold meets up with Katarina in the beginning of the episode and talk about his matches.
Yeah, and he gets some training right off the bat. And Katarina says that she has like a history of working with clients with autism, so I guess she feels like she's like sort of an expert, I guess, in this way. So she's talking with him a little bit about like kind of first date things that you should do. Active listening was one of the most important things, and we'll see how that plays out in this next date for him. Sort of wish that everybody would have some like dating training before they go out and start dating. At least like trying to find your person. Like obviously, you know, the best training is probably to just go date people.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find that when people talk to people who live with autism, they walk them through all of the, you know, social cues and things like that. But I think sometimes like people just struggle with those things in general, especially when you're nervous and on a first date. So I don't know. I think it'd make people feel better to have a little matchmaking dating training. Right. Yeah. So she tells him a little bit about this girl. I wasn't able to catch her name. I caught her name when Harold said it, but it sounded like he mispronounced it. About
Teresa.
Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
So she's 26. She's blonde and athletic, which is what Harold's looking for. And Katarina says that she has a history of dating players and cheaters. I don't know if Katarina set her up with those players and cheaters, or if she's also coming to Katarina to start like dating as well. You know, Harold should have wore his fire suspenders.
His fire shirt, his lucky shirt.
Yeah, he would have done better with that one.
So after Harold talks to Katarina about his date, we kind of swap back over to Stanika, and she's finally walking up to Nordine.
French Montana.
Which Nordine seemed like a gentleman to her right off the bat. He had flowers for her, so she was loving that. He's taking her on a walking tour. With Nina sadly following behind, just not saying a word. She didn't need to. It just flowed right from the get. So
yeah, they really did seem to kind of hit it off.
And then they were doing those shots, and she's like, "My sinuses."
I know. Yeah. So he takes her to this like herb and spice shop. I think that's kind of what it looks like. It has like a lot of different like saffron and some kinds of like herbal teas and stuff. So yeah, I don't know if it was hot or if it was just spicy or both. Didn't look very good, but she took it like a champ. I mean, she's really open to it at least. I think she drank it. Yeah, and she wanted to drink it. She kept saying, she's like, "No, I want it, but I can't get it down." Which I could never be. If I can't get something down, I can't get something down. It's not gonna happen.
It's just funny because that's pretty much the only time they talk to Nina is so she can hand her the flowers so she can take her shot. And then that was pretty much it. You didn't hear Nina until after they walked around a few other places, and Nina finally goes up to her and is like, "So, you think I can go?"
I know, she's ready to go. So Nina goes. I think Nina takes Stanika's flowers with her because Nina just turned into like the professional flower holder after the shot. And yeah, they went on their date, the rest of the date themselves. And it looks like they stayed out pretty late because by the time they said bye to each other, it was like pretty dark. Like you could tell the cameras had their lights up and everything. But they seemed to get along well on their date. Nordine was talking the way that he sees his life and that he doesn't really see it lining up necessarily with like Moroccan culture and values, which is why he's attracted to the United States. But obviously he grew up, there. So he has some of those cultures that he'll bring into the relationship. So yeah, they seem to be vibing, liking each other. The conversation seemed easy. So yeah.
Great stuff. But then we get to the new person in the episode, which is Mark, who we call Fake Chad. But we call him Fake Chad because we meet a real Chad later. And we were originally just calling him Chad. So for this episode, I'm probably going to just call him Chad because I was at this point when I originally watched it calling him Chad. So
right.
I was surprised when they added a real Chad. I was like, oh shit, what am I going to call this guy?
We texted each other. I think that was one of the ones that we were watching together for the first time and just texting. And we were like, oh my God, there's another Chad. Like, what are we going to do?
We've known many a Chad in our lives, like, and on TV, and just, they all have similar qualities.
You guys know.
You know when you've met one, okay?
Yeah, they know.
Chad gets introduced to us. He's 44 from Arizona. And he works as a sportcaster, which for some reason I did not catch that the first time that he was a sportcaster. I just thought he was
talkative. Yeah, but totally intuitive for Fake Chad Mark. I mean, sportscaster. Eventually, I think, we hear what Nina's take is on him, but I mean, she describes him perfectly. So we have to say it now. He's a frat boy in a 44-year-old's body. So Chad Mark, sportscaster, Arizona, likes to travel. You can picture him.
Right. And he is mainly just trying to settle down right now because his friends are settling down. Looked around one day and all of his friends had kids.
He's 44. So I think, he's going to start looking around and wondering, he said he lays in bed at night sometimes and wonders, like, is this it? Am I going to be, alone forever? And that made me feel for him a little bit because I saw they had a scene where he went and visited some of his friends' kids and he like picked up the baby and he was kind of like cute with them. I mean, you can tell he doesn't have a lot of experience. It seems like with babies, he talks to them like an adult, but I thought that was also like kind of endearing. He like picks up this baby. He's like, hey, remember me from Christmas? Like this baby's probably like 3 months old. So Mark says that he could have been with one of his exes that was pretty serious, but he got spooked. And he thought that she was using him financially. He doesn't talk a lot about why he thought that. So, I mean, we can't really determine whether or not that was true. But it does kind of seem to be something that continues to be a theme for him while he goes to Morocco, just being kind of like hyper aware of what the financial situation is. And newsflash, he has no idea what Moroccan culture is like. And as soon as he gets there, he learns, one, that you can't be touching people at the hotel or anywhere in public. No hand holding, no kissing, no taking people back.
Yeah.
But then he also learns eventually about like finances and how family dynamics work in Moroccan culture, which is also, kind of patriarchal, it seems like men, for the most part are the providers. So I'm very confused as to why he found himself in Morocco, why he didn't do any research about Morocco. But here we are in Morocco with Mark.
Well, it's because he says that family is important to the women out there. So he thinks that they have just these strong family values that American women don't. But that's pretty much the only explanation he gives for Morocco. Otherwise, there was not a lick of research done in this situation.
Yeah, but his thoughts are kind of like contradictory. He wants someone that has good family values, but at the same time, he wants a woman who can provide just as much as he can and work and, kind of be equals in that way. And it's not that it's impossible that those two things can exist, but probably not in this culture, in this country, probably more so in the U.S.
Did something break?
It's the dog. Natalie, who is arriving in Colombia.
And as she's arriving, she thinks that her Spanish from high school is going to just flood back to her at the airport. She just is getting lost, running around, trying to talk to people, and she's asking them if they speak English, and almost everybody's like, no. And in her, I guess, voiceover, she's saying, I took 2 years in high school, and I thought that when I got to Colombia, it'd just flood right back to me. I was like, girl. It's like, girl, I took a couple years of Spanish in high school, and I could probably maybe only tell somebody, like, library and, like, my name is.
I took French in high school. I also went on a trip to Quebec, with my whole French class. I think I took like 4 years of French. Graduated high school, my grandma took me to Paris, and I knew nothing. I probably wouldn't have been able to even navigate myself around had my grandma not been familiar with Paris, because she's been there several times. So, yeah, it doesn't just come back. And I think this is when it starts to hit her. Everybody kind of seems to have this moment where it hits them that they're, really in a different culture, and things are going to be maybe a little bit challenging to navigate. So this is when it kind of hits her. She's still at the airport. She's trying to figure out, I think, just how to get her bags.
She gets taken to a dance class where it seems like she's never danced a day in her life, which was weird to me because she shows all these pictures of her going out with her friends. You think there'd be a little bit of dancing or moving, but when she was on that dance floor, homegirl was.
She was stiff in her legs, but you could tell she was trying to loosen up. Like, you could see her shoulders go like this once in a while, which is so funny. It reminds me of when I was younger. My mom used to like dance in the car with me. So we would like, dance in the car, and you can't use your legs when you dance in the car. Finally, like when I was starting to walk, music would come on and I'd be in the living room and I'd just be like, and I wouldn't dance with my legs. My mom finally realized when we were in the car that we just wiggle. Kind of reminded me of that because she's dancing back and forth with Juan, and you can see her, feet going, but she's wiggling up here and there's no hip movement. But she was trying. You could tell that she's really uncomfortable, and she just was not expecting to go dancing at all that day.
And he does tell her, you might be dancing on some of these dates, so I'm taking you dancing so you can feel more confident in yourself, because Juan is really also a therapist for Natalia. So instead of getting her matches that probably have more towards her values, it seems like he's going to test her.
Yeah.
They just show Natalie for a little bit, and then they go back to Stanika and Nordine. Seems to be the main date of the day.
Yeah. So, and she's really loving her date. This
is when she eats that head of an animal or something.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read goat head on my thing, and I was like,
it says goat head. And
all right. So then we get to kind of the second half of Stanika's date. And Nordine says he wants to show her a great time, not a good time. And then he takes her to eat a goat head.
She actually was super open-minded to it. Stanika seems like down for anything. So she tried it, and she's like, oh, it tastes like roast beef. It's tender.
She liked it. She tried it. I don't think I would have been able to try it. So I definitely give her credit for that, for sure. And Nordine seemed really happy that she was open to those things. Nordine did want to show her like his culture, and I think the fact that she was open to that was a good thing. So while they're munching on their goat head, Nordine gets to asking her some questions. She's asking Nordine some questions, like the typical date questions. What do you look for? What do you see in your future? That kind of thing. And Nordine seems to have all the right answers. And when he asks Stanika what she wants in a man, she says, I don't want to play build a bear, build a man. She wants a man to come to her as is, the way that he is. And he says, you'll always get this from me. This is who I am. So
yeah, I thought that was cool.
It was a cute little moment because he showed up to that date like ready to take her out, ready to kind of show her who he is, what he likes. Like, she didn't really have to do much but enjoy herself and be open to the experience. And it seems like he likes doing things like that. So yeah, they seem like a really, really good fit so far.
I think the two qualities that help Nordine the most is just that he's a tour guide and he speaks really good English. So
Yeah.
this is like what he does. So he's really good at showing people a good time, like going around and doing things. But they do exchange numbers and decide that they will meet up again. He's just going to be gone for a couple of days, and she says that she's still going to try out her options, but that she's definitely going to be down for another date. But then we get Susan back.
Yeah.
Both of them, Susan and Calliope, came back to confront Juan about their date.
She was actually, though, a lot nicer than I thought she was going to be to Juan, because when she left her date, she was like visibly shuddering, like we were talking about. She was upset. She said nothing was bueno. So she's had some time, it seems like a day at least, to sort of cool off and decide how she really felt about it. She still did not like Miguel, but she was nice to Juan about it. She kind of broke the news in a nicer way. We find that Miguel actually did want to go on another date with her. He told Juan he wanted to go on another date with her, so she had to say no again. And then we start to see Juan start to talk about his process a little bit. So he's actually seems like he's excited that she came back and did not want this date. But he sits down with his notebook next to her and he's like going down the list, and he's like, you said you want financially stable. He was financially stable. You said you want well-traveled. He was well-traveled. She's like so annoyed. Yeah.
Because she was saying, I do, he wouldn't let me get a word in, and I do like to open up, and I would tell him about myself. He's like, Jess, you talk. And then he decides to set her up on a date in that very moment with a guy named Carlos, which took her by surprise.
She says, who's next? And he goes, next will be Carlos. And he says Carlos is very different. And for me, for some reason, when I heard next will be Carlos, I really felt like in that moment, he just pulled that name out of a hat. Like, I did not actually anticipate that moments later he would be immediately sending her off on a date with Carlos. I thought that was just the question she was asking. Like, I'm ready to move on. And he was like, okay, I guess I need to find somebody else. But he says Carlos is very different from Miguel, that he's not as financially stable, but that he does like to travel. I think he said he's been to like 30 or 40 countries or something, kind of big like that. And so, of course, Susan wants to know, what does he do to do all this traveling without being as financially stable? So we learned that he is a musician, and she was almost speechless at that. She was like full time. She could not stand it. And then Juan also tells her that Carlos is a younger guy. And she says, okay, how much younger? And he just says, just younger. That's all. So he sends her on her way immediately. She learns right then and there that she's going to go on a date, and she's got Calliope on her lap. She says, okay, Calliope, you ready to go? And Calliope's ready to go. So
yeah, she says she hasn't totally stopped believing in Juan yet. So she's given this a shot, but we'll see if this makes her stop believing. And then we get Harold's date, which is the end of the episode. This is what Harold's kind of asking for. He wants a tall, sexy blonde. I don't even know what it is. Other than tall, sexy blonde, I don't really see what I don't see why she put these two together, but
But I agree. It seems like they're both looking for something completely different, and it becomes really apparent, I think, to both of them right away as soon as Harold sits himself on the paddle boat that they're a little different.
The moment she saw Harold, she closed right up, and she was clutching that purse for dear life. And it's nothing against Harold. It's just it wasn't what she was expecting, I'm sure, at all. And maybe she wasn't even really warned much about it besides what his personality is. She tried. She did ask a few questions. She did engage with him when he was talking to her. She took his he drew her something, and she did receive that very well, and she put it in her purse.
I don't like that she folded it, but her purse was small. I'll give her that.
I wouldn't have liked that either, but it's just, I didn't notice that, but I probably wouldn't have liked that as an artist. I'm not sure if she still has it to this day. I hope I would. I think that was really pretty, and I actually liked that he came with a little gift for her. So they go on this pedal boat ride, and it does get a little bit awkward. They have a little bit of awkward conversation. He tries telling her about himself. He said he tried active listening, but she wasn't asking him enough questions, so he decided to just start telling her about himself, which I actually think is a forward step with people with autism. A lot of them kind of just choke up to begin with. So the fact that he even wants to talk about himself with this girl, I think is good practice for him.
I agree. It shows like an ability for him to monitor the situation that's going on and take the clues that are happening and change direction. He was really focused on active listening, but then he learned she's not really saying a lot. So I'm going to have to be the one to direct this a little bit more. And he changed that up really quickly. But the conversation did kind of go a little bit left.
Yes.
It got a little awkward, and I didn't notice this on the first watch as much as I did this watch. But he says some interesting things, like he'd like to merge the physical and the intellectual, which is fine. I think that's, kind of the point of a romantic relationship in general. But just I think he didn't have quite the words to say in that moment, and he was nervous. And so he said he wanted someone to hang out with and do fun things, but then also to be very with. And I think that just came out wrong. I don't think that was his intention really to say it that way, but it came out that way, and it did feel icky. And there was another follow-up question after that. I think someone asked, like, what's the most important thing? And Harold said that it was her pleasure. And she revealed that her most important thing was also her pleasure. But again, like, just kind of an awkward moment between the two of them. Like I said, I think he really was trying to find a better way to say that, but that's what he was trying to say. I think just saying merging the physical and intellectual, I think he could have just left it at that. But
yeah, definitely. She got it. And then Harold asks if she finds him attractive, which she says that she does not. She doesn't really like his outfit. She says flowers don't belong on a man, right?
Yeah.
Is that what it was?
I don't like flowers on men. Yes.
He was wearing a nice floral shirt, Hawaiian shirt. I say nice.
Well, Harold takes good care of his clothing, as we learned in episode 1. So it is nice. It's just not like nice.
10 years old Hawaiian shirt, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he asks to see her again, and she says that if she will see him again, she will find him. I felt really bad for him because I don't think he really understood. I think she was trying to put it as blunt by still being nice, but she really just needed to say no because he kept asking. She was kind of like skirting around it for a second, and then she finally was just kind of like, if I want to find you, I will.
Yeah, which I thought was strange. Like, are you a witch? She said, I have a sense to find anyone. It was at this moment that I was like, I hope Harold does not cross paths with this woman again because she might be a witch.
Yeah, I think Harold dodged a bullet there. I think when he watches this back, he might realize that hindsight's 2020. But that's the end of it for that episode. I think the next episode we get teased. What now, Brooke?
I will tell you. So the next episode, we find that Mark will continue to learn about the culture in Morocco. He's going to go on a date with a 24-year-old. He talks about being kind of nervous right away that she's 24. He says 24-year-olds don't have a lot of responsibility, so he doesn't want to be a parent, it sounds like, to this person. And I mean, with his age, he really could be her dad. So yeah, we'll see how that date goes. Then with Natalie, she goes on a little pool date, it looks like. Not quite sure, but it's nighttime. She's at a pool with a guy, and he's already taking his clothes off at this pool, and you can tell she's really nervous. She says he's moving too quickly. Then we go to Harold, and he's getting some feedback on the date that we just saw, and we will see him get a makeover in this next episode so that he can go on his next dates, maybe not wearing flowers.
Yeah.
And then we have Stanika, and she gets to go on another date. She's going to go on a date with another man because, remember, Nordine or French Montana, he is touring some VIPs right now. So he's going to be taking a little break. They'll be texting, but she's going to go on another date. And it looks like this date gets kind of chaotic and weird. So that should be fun to watch and talk about next week.
We love to chick chat.
We do.
We do. So feel free to subscribe, like, follow, share, whatever. All right. So that's it for this episode. See you next time.
See you next time.
Awkward.